I know that today is a very exciting topic, and even more exciting for me because I've known Angela for quite a while, and I saw you moving and transitioning between different roles. And I think what is very interesting about growing in IT and growing into like big software companies is that the more senior you become, the more cross-disciplinary knowledge you have, the more you understand about other teams, right? So if you start as localization specialist, you eventually move to understand more about, say, UI UX design and development and all the other aspects of this industry. So I'm very excited to present Angela today and her sharing on very exciting topic of UI UX localization and truly bringing the cultural aspects, truly bringing immersion in game design. So without further ado, please.
Thank you, Anna and Arnold, for the lovely invitation. And hi, everyone. Good evening or good morning to you, depends on where you are. This is Angela, and I'm a localization project manager based in Blizzard Shanghai office. And I joined Blizzard about 5 years ago. And since then, I have managed titles like World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Diablo 4, and also currently on Overwatch 2. And today, I'd like to share how the words we choose help build the Blizzard worlds, and how did we craft player immersion through the UI UX and localization. And before we begin, I'll have to make a quick disclaimer. I'm a localization product manager, not a UI UX designer. So what I'm going to share with you today is through the close collaboration with our UI UX team. And I got lots of inspiration from them. So hopefully you will enjoy what I'm going to share. So in game development, the UI UX is often referred to as a heads-up display. And I was reading an article on UX writing for games by Ben Morin. He's also a game professional. And one of his theory on how to balance the usability and artistry is very inspiring. And he said, video games are both a work of art and also a digital consumer product. So they have the same artistic challenge as like a movie or a TV series, you need to be memorable, but also you will need to meet all the practical requirements of a mass market digital product to be simple and also easy to use. So let's imagine them as two poles of a spectrum, and a video game could sit anywhere along it and still be a commercial hit. But if we go too far to the left or too far to the right, then the risk of being a commercial failure will increase. So if we go big on artistry at the expense of usability, then you have a video game that's, it's looking good, it sounds amazing, but then nobody can play that, right? And if you go too further towards the usability, and then you have a game everyone can play, but it's not fun because it's derivative and it's dull. So in game today, I'm going to play three cards. So first of all, we're going to talk about the foundational principles that ensure we have the usability, in our games, and also what does game have in common with everyday app like the AliExpress, and then how do we build UI that's immersive, and also pull the players deeper into the world. And lastly, we'll touch on how localization contributes to hero design, crafting the synergy between different disciplines. And you might have the impression that UI in games and UI in AliExpress can be so different, right? But actually, we serve the same business goal to close the gap between the creator and the users. So, for example, if you're shopping in AliExpress, then UI close the gap between the sellers and the buyers, so they can find the product, compare the options, complete the purchase smoothly. And in our Blazor games, the UI close the gap between the developers and also the players, so they can understand the system, navigate clearly, and also stay engaged. So in both cases, a good UX align words to a user's experience, expectation, and also understanding. And one of the first things we have in common is design principles. And no one has ever said it better than Anna. When we're having the workshop back in Hangzhou in July, I really learned a lot from you, Anna. So the principles are being purposeful, concise, and localization ready. Being purposeful means that we have a clear call to action. So for example, if you are in Diablo 4, then you can start game, create clan, or join a clan. And be concise means that you use very clear language to reduce the cognitive load for the players. So for example, in Hearthstone, for every minion, we have two case stats. Attack, which is shown with a dagger here, and also health is represented by a blood drop. So these words are very simple and easy to understand, right? And of course, we can be more creative. Like instead of calling attack, we can use more fancy words like ferocity. And instead of health, we can use another word like probably morale. You know, it'll add so much flavor, but then, you know, it doesn't add much more clarity. And this is also one of the Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics to match between systems and also the real world. And then the third principle is to being localization ready. And that means we, take care of the string variation, the gender rules, and text expansion. If we have localization friends here today, we can talk about this all day if we have time. But you know all the challenges. And I will give you an example from Overwatch. In Overwatch, we're shipping the game not only on PC but also in different console platforms like Xbox, PS4, 5, and also Nintendo Switch. So we have an English string. The source is interact button not bound. So the interact button is like the XYAB that you use on the console. And then the controller. But be because Xbox and PS, they have different glossaries to follow, and we need to follow them very strictly. Otherwise, we will trigger a compliance bug that'll prevent the build submission, which will further compromise the game release. So because we have different transitions, and we ended up creating a unique key for each of the platform. So for Xbox, we have a unique key for that, so we can translate interact button into simplified Chinese as 互动按钮. And then we have another one for PS4, and this time we have the flexibility to translate interact button as 互动键. And when we're having so many things going on the screen and players have very limited attention, minimum minimalist design becomes essential. So it is our job to keep the screen clean, reduce the noise, and to show only what players actually need. So let's take this fan-made Elden Ring UI as an example. So there are icons everywhere, like text everywhere. You don't know where to look at and let alone, where to click. That's why the real Elden Ring interface is so much cleaner. It stays out of the way so players can get immersed. And in our games, World of Warcraft also, follow the same principle. And let me show you a picture. Oh no, did I just show you the worst example? Actually, I found this on Reddit from one of the players, and he said, my guildists say I have the worst UI they have ever seen. It's not that bad, right? Well, clearly it's very bad, but if your guild forces you to turn on every add-on ever made, then it can get very like intense and you don't know where to look at. But if WoW is in its default state, or when the players tailor their UI, it can be incredibly clean and focused like this one. So minimalist design is also about when not to show the UI, and the Diablo 4 does this beautifully. So out in the field, you can see this is your map and your quest tracker. And in the middle, you have your build and also your weapon stats. But if you go into a town like the Cathedral of Light, and all the build fields will be, fade out and gray out. because you don't need to attack anyone here. This is like a peaceful and a sanctuary for you. So the game shifts the atmosphere so you can focus on the lore and the world instead of the numbers. And also when UI elements, they all share a very limited screen space. And so hierarchy becomes crucial. It guides the player's attention, and we create hierarchy through the color and placement, scale, and also grouping. And I'd like to give you some examples from Overwatch 2. You will see this immediately on the main menu. The default UI items like the play, hero, or shop, they're always white. But when a seasonal event drops, like the Play Like Luca or Summer Game 2025, and then it'll get a special color. Like in this case, it's orange. It's our like a signature Overwatch color. And also the placement reinforces this as well. So important features like will always sit at the top when players look at them first. It's being clearly separated from the regular or less frequent options like the loot box, social, or challenges. The scale matters as well because our eyes naturally gravitate towards the largest object. So in Mythic Shop, the new skin, Mythic skin or Mythic weapon is always the biggest highlight. For example, what we're seeing is the Juno Mythic skin, Heart of Hope. I mean, who has the heart, to disregard this like lovely, adorable skin for Juno, right? It's just right there, front and center. And finally, grouping also help the player navigate without thinking. So in the cosmetics menu, everything is neatly organized. So I recorded a video to show that to you. This is a highlight intro, followed by emotes, and then victory pose, and then weapon charms, etc. So it's being very clear, and then players will know, where to click. Um, Yeah. So good hierarchy isn't just visual, it's psychological. It gently guides the player towards what matters most, exactly when they need it. And Blizzard games is also created for everyone, and accessibility is another key aspect of the design. In Overwatch, players can reveal the advanced hero info. For example, what we're seeing is Genji's Dragon Blade, the ultimate, and it deals 110 damage over 6 seconds. And we introduced the Stadium recently, and players can customize their build by choosing different combinations of the weapons, abilities, and also survival items. And I'd like to show you a video here, and you can see what I have done with my build. So I'm adding the 5% weapon power, and then 10 health, and then 50 armor. So all of the changes are represented here. And when we're thinking about, how do we present this to players and let them know that, these items have been buffed? And originally we thought about we just use colors, and that's pretty smart, right? Like weapon, we use like red and then purple for ability and then white for the survival items. But what if the player is colorblind? Then it does not work for them because the color doesn't mean anything for them. So in the final design, we combined the icons and the colors. So in this way, even if the color cannot be distinguished, the visual icons here clearly communicate what has been buffed. So this is an example from Overwatch about how do we value accessibility. And also when we have so many UIs in the game, consistency will keep the UI uniform so the players will know, how to interact with them. That familiarity reduces the learning curve and boosts the engagement. Across many games like Diablo 4, World of Warcraft, Baldur's Gate, or Torchlight, you can, always expect the chat in the bottom left, and then minimap top right, the builds in the middle, and also the quest on the right side. So the learning curve is almost a zero. And life bar is another great example. So normally the bar is represented by either one or two colors, and it drinks from right to left. And here you can see Diva's life bar in Overwatch. Oh, sorry. And here another example of Lilith's life bar in Diablo 4. But sometimes, when games are trying to be, creative, it can actually hurt the clarity. So let's take on a side quest here. I will give you 20 seconds to figure out, how does this life bar works in this game.
Sharing enemy location. They're all over me. Deploying healing pad.
Yeah, I can see Anna, you're very confused, and you're not alone. So here the bar uses three colors. The orange stands for high health, yellow for medium, and then the green for low. And also it drinks from left to right with a curve in the middle. And on top of that, when you are getting healed, the screen flashes green, but green is supposed to be the color of low health. So when I was, watching the video, I got really confused. And I think that probably the takeaway from this example is that do not fix what isn't broken. So users rely on the patterns, and also the patterns help them to build the psychological safety. And when patterns break, the confusion happens. Consistency also means the thematic harmony. The UI should fit the game's world. So in Diablo 4, everything follows a dark, gothic, red and black aesthetic. And in World of Warcraft, if you know this, the old god content use the iconic purple and yellow sanity theme. And the UI also reflects that. So when your sanity bar hits 0, you're gone. You will lose all of your sanity. And another thing game and everyday app have in common is gamification to find the fun, right? And this is to enable the users to enjoy your product. And I think this example comes from AliExpress, but I think AliExpress did it really good. So there are many mini games in the app that you can play, like the Rush Hour. I was playing that the other day, and about like 5 minutes into the game, I found myself running out of parking lots. So yeah, as you can see, I don't have any more left, and I have to unlock them. But how do I unlock them? I will need to get additional gaming points by either, browsing the product here or buy some of them. So that closes the loop. The game drives shopping, and shopping fuels the game. That's a really smart and good way to boost the user engagement. So now we talked about what does Give have in common with everyday app, and let's play the second card. What makes game UI unique? So if you think about where do we interact with the UI, what's the product are we consuming, and when do we get emotional reward, the answers can be quite different. Take Christmas, for example. If you are shopping in AliExpress, then you are interacting with the UI in AliExpress, the app. And then the product probably you'll be consuming is a Christmas tree. And where do you feel the emotion? Probably you're, decorating that in your home to feel the happiness and joy, with your family. But if you think about our Blizzard games, if you want to enjoy the Christmas vibe, then you can go to Overwatch and you play, Winterland. And then you will do that. You interact with the UI in Overwatch. Overwatch itself is a product you use. And also you feel all kinds of emotions like happiness, frustration, more perhaps angry, in Overwatch. So in short, game is a more integrated entertainment process that focuses on player immersion. So for game UI, we design for immersion and for the player's emotional journey. And sometimes the emotional feedback we got come from places that we don't expect at all. So for example, in Hearthstone Battlegrounds, there is a spinner animation before each match. And it's purely flavor like this one, bacon fryers and Morlock seers and out team, etc. So when a spinner stops, it'll land on something, saying like originally it was perfect opponent. But this is a card game and you're paired with strangers you don't know. And also the card you're going to draw or play or you buy from the bartender's tavern is completely random. So because of the matchmaking and randomness of the card game, the players can get completely stumped, and they often get upset with us for calling that they got the perfect opponent, right? I just got stumped and you just say my opponents are perfect. Or if I get a really easy win, it's a low-hanging fruit, and then you also call that perfect. So it doesn't really fit, what I'm feeling in this game. And after we heard the feedback from the players, we changed the perfect opponent to worthy opponent. So the gameplay didn't change. Players can still lose badly, but the emotional tone softened dramatically. This is a really small trick, but it shows, how even tiny pieces of the UI can shape the entire experience. And so far, we talked about the UI that are visible to our human eye, but also in games, not everything has to be a written out text. So in UX, affordance is about how information is communicated through the environment itself. A good example is the Hearthstone Battlegrounds. So when you are recruiting minis from the tavern, you only have a short time to make all the decisions. And the countdown is technically shown on the right side, but your eyes are usually glued to the center of the board because you're so busy, buying, selling all the minions, applying the buffs, and also juggling the position of the minions. So you might not notice the timer at all. And so our dev teams, they wanted to solve this issue. So starting from 20 seconds, they add a burning rope stretching across the middle, and it has a sound effect as well. So let's take a look.
You're down a minion and up a gold. You're doing great out there.
Yeah, so without saying a word, the burning rope is telling you to hurry up. So this time we show, but we don't tell. And in games, we have so many more cards to play compared to other apps. And take the Juno's Heart of Hope skin as an example. And in the menu, you can only get a static preview, and you don't really know what to expect. But once you enter the practice range, everything changes. So let's take a look. So you can see Juno is moving with this happy, energetic animation and also the upbeat sound effect bring the whole skin to life. So in games, the sound effect and the visual effect will amplify the emotion and turn the design into a full experience. And to take creation to a new level and really push the boundary of the imagination in game UI, I'd like to introduce one more type of UI to you, the meta interface. So a great example is Diablo 4. And when your health gets dangerous low, you're too focused to survive instead of checking your health goal all the time. So this is where the meta UI steps in. So the screen edges will fill with a reddish and bloody haze, and you also hear a heavy heartbeat. So even without reading anything on the interface, you instantly feel, the danger is there. The Meta UI lets the game communicate through the atmosphere, not the text. And now we have played two cards already. I'm going to play the third card and to say, how does our localization team contributes to the immersive experience. So when the Overwatch dev team started designing our second Chinese hero, they gave him a code name Aqua. And Aqua uses water as a hero power, and he has a sister who uses fire. And they were born after the Omnic crisis, where the world was flooded with chaos. So the first quest for us was to name those two heroes, and we imagined ourselves to be the parents of those, two heroes, and we're hoping for the long-standing peace for the world. And we studied Taoism and also traditional naming convention, and finally we came up with the name Anran and Wuyang. Together, they echo the Chinese idiom 安然无恙. And coincidentally, that means safe and sound in English. That's a pretty clever wordplay, right? And we didn't just stop there. We modified the characters too. So for Anran, who harnesses fire, we used this Ran. And for Wu Yang, who commands water, we used this Yang with the water radical. So the devil is really in the details, right? Now we feel the characters are more relatable, they're authentic, they're beloved. So, and also the Chinese community response was overwhelmingly positive. We're so grateful for that. And also, if you're working in game industry, then you probably have heard of the term tech debt or ad debt. It often refers to if you don't do something early in the pipeline, then later you will need to pay the price, either on the technology side or on the art side, which is both expensive to make any change later in the pipeline. And today I like to coin the term localization debt and also tell you a story how we help the dev team to avoid misinterpretation of the Chinese culture. So the dev gave Wu Yang an awesome martial artist outlook. But when we saw this in the test build, we noticed something is off. And if you pay attention here, was that a jade pendant on his belt? In Chinese culture, jade is precious, and if it breaks, it brings bad luck. And Wu Yang is a fighter. He will jump, he will kick, he will punch. So the jade wouldn't last even for a day. So I suggest replacing that with a scented pouch. So and also embroidered with the word 无恙, which the origin of the name and also means no disaster. So the change in the early design stage can really help us prevent many back and forths for art creation, animation, engineer work, or probably marketing or our publishing partner NetEase to like save them so many headaches. And up to this point, we have played all three cards already. And at this point, the bartender Bob would like to help us summarize 4 game UI design ideas that we can take away. So we start with player's mindset. Games UI are essentially user-centric. We reduce the noise, amplify the meaning by using the minimalist design, the hierarchy, and affordance. And also we build emotion, not just a function. Remember that all the sound effect, visual effect, they're your friends to help you tell the story. And also localize early, localize smart. Cultural insight is design insight. And as Bob often say, let's play the audio.
Yeah, let's step up our game.
Let's step our game. So now we're going to wrap up the presentation and like to borrow the mission statement from our Diablo 4 UI team. While I was preparing the presentation, I noticed that they post a picture in their UI channel and they said, we're not a service team, downstream discipline, or team that only creates game menus. We craft a player-centric game experience at Blizzard AAA level. And also, just a couple of days ago, I was in the office and I happened to find a physical user guide for World of Warcraft trading card game dated back to 2007. That's basically 18 years ago. So the UI design on this paper game seemed to be the precursor of our, Hearthstone cards and so many UI elements in our current games. And if we take a closer look, the dev team they put together a glossary, to ensure the consistency and accurate understanding of the game. This is all part of the Blizzard genes that's been, running in our veins. And even though the world we created it is virtual, and also I'm aware of all the criticism around our Blizzard games, but I want to tell you the care from the dev team has always been there. Just because our world are virtual doesn't mean it's fake. All right, so that'll wrap up my presentation today. And I'd like to give special thanks to our amazing community organizer, Anna and Arnold. I started to learn content design ever since I joined your community, and I have learned so much from you, especially the workshop that I went to in Hangzhou. That was really beneficial for me and very inspiring. And also, I'd like to thank my colleague Wan Go and Hating for giving me so many examples, to um, you give me some inspiration. And also our amazing UX designer from Overwatch, Cynthia Lee. She is based in the US, and I had a talk with her to get more, insights, from her side. And many of the examples actually came from her side, and I'm so grateful for that. And also our PR manager, Eric Elliott. Um, Eric gave me a media training to tell me how to navigate the presentation and how should I handle the Q&A, professionally and properly. I'm so grateful for that. And even though actually I was getting doubtful about some of the examples and wasn't sure whether to use them or not, and Eric found a really smart way to help me keep the idea and also make sure that, this is not inappropriate to anyone. And also my friends, Joseph, a lead game designer from Beamdog, and also Kyle, another game designer from Code Games. I'm so grateful for all of the support and encouragement you have given me, and I couldn't have done this without your support. So that'll be all from my presentation, and I think we can open the floor for Q&A.
Thank you
Wow.
so much. That was absolutely fantastic. What a treat. What a treat. Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you.
I think we have some questions in the chat, do we?
Yes, yes, we do. What an amazing presentation. It's just I'm mind blown, honestly.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we do have a couple of questions. You can still ask your question in the chat, and I will take them as we go. So no worries. Okay, let's start with yes. First question we received is actually from me. It is clear that Blizzard understand the importance of good, concise copy adapted to each languages, and culturally resonating with different markets. So, in terms of process, how do you make sure that UX copy and localization perspective get included into the creation process? And I assume you've been in Blizzard for many years, so perhaps you find some hacks, some tips, some tricks that could allow you to let them see the importance of UX copy and localization.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question, Arnold. So localization is often seen as a downstream pipeline. That's just a fact, even though that's not ideal. But I think we need to fight to the upstream team and let them know localization is not a cost center. We can actually add value to them. So, for example, when we're going to, add new UIs in a game, then we'll have the localization producers, talk with the dev team and to share with them, for German or French, we'll have the text expansion and the UI, the box will be too small for them. Or, sometimes can we do this smartly, not to show the text, but just to use the icon. So I think also we need to understand understand how do they work, what's their pipeline. I think communication and understanding is a two-way street. It's one thing for us to know better of us, and also it's our responsibility to know their pipeline. So we know at what stage we'll need to bring up the idea of the challenges in localization. So they will have the flexibility and also the chance to make some change early on. And perhaps we can tell them the word that I just coined, localization debt. So, because we can speak their language because they use tech debt or art debt all the time. And if we tell them, actually there's something called lock debt, and if we don't do this, then later in the pipeline we need to retranslate, retest, and here is the cost of the manpower and also the cost of money. So I think the numbers will definitely be helpful. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Spot on, honestly. Okay. I will definitely rewatch that one because there is so much to process. By the way, folks, this video will be shared on our YouTube channel every time, every talks that we give. So yeah, you can definitely watch it, rewatch it again and again. Okay. We have more and more questions coming in. So questions from Rajab. Have you worked on game localization targeting the Arabic market? What were the main challenges you faced? And Hugh, that comments that Arabic UI with crying emoji, we all understand your pain here, Hugh. So yes. What do you think, Angela?
Yeah, that's another really, really good question. And so far, we don't support any right to left languages in our games, unfortunately. Um, but um, yeah, I think this is a really big market, and I personally studied like the best localization practice for right to left languages, and I know it can be very challenging from the way the UI is flipped or just mirrored. There is a big difference on that. You need to be very careful. And also to support like the different date format, the calendar, and also the unit of measurement or even punctuation, which is associated with the IME, the input method. And where do you put the question mark, that's follows a different direction. And also, how do we support bidirectional input? Because Arabic it flows from right to left, but then you might have some English words in it, and it goes from left to right. So you will need to like technically be able to support that. And also the cultural perspective. We need to be really mindful about what's sensitive in that region, and also be respectful about their culture, and to make sure nothing we create in the game is offensive.
Very well. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Next questions. Question from Jonathan. Can you tell me more about the role of a localization project manager, which is your role? What skill does one need to become a localization PM?
Yeah, well, we have really some good question, all good questions today. Thank you, Jonathan. So I think the first thing, it's different when you're working for like a language, sorry, a language, sorry, LSP. What does it stand for? Language service provider. Yeah. So like when I was working for TransPerfect, I learned a lot about the industry best practice. How do we use TMS, CAD tool, um, and how do we use AI? And also you need to have a solid understanding of the pipeline and workflow control, and also vendor management. So I would say what I have learned from TransPerfect build a foundation of what I have today. I'm very grateful for that. But then, when I moved to Blizzard, um, I definitely need to step up my game and upgrade my build, right? My skill set. So the first thing is to learn how to play the games. Because before I joined Blizzard, to be honest, I didn't know how to play the games. So the first job, the what I need to prioritize is to learn how to play Blizzard games. I started I started from Heroes of the Storm and StarCraft. It was a huge learning curve. I'll have to say that. And my colleagues uh, they're already left, but they were all standing behind me and like pointing on the screen, like you need to click here, you need to click there, and here is how you can survive, resurrect or survive. So like I learned everything about how to play games from them, and this is really the foundation of being a good localization PM in the gaming industry, because unlike the LSP, your core product is the game. So you need to know your game first. And all of the strings that you're managing, localization or in-game testing or audio recording, it's in the game, and every string it serves a purpose. You will have to know what is the purpose they're going to serve in game. So once you know the function, then it helps you better to either refine the process, to talk to your stakeholders, or to manage your vendors. It's just so much more helpful. So that's, another like a key ability that you need to have when you're switching from, the vendor side to the game side.
Yeah, learning how to play the game, and I can imagine for your colleagues it must have been also quite insightful, to see, first time user experience, how you play the game, and what could be, areas that could be made clearer, or game mechanics. Anyway, it's an opportunity to learn for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, my colleague Hating is actually sitting right next to me, and she said I should be a streamer because the way I play game is not like common. So yeah, it
Mm.
has some like a dramatic effect, but yeah, I will not do that.
Well, you know what to do next, right? Next path for your career,
Start that Twitch account.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And we have another questions from Joy. My question is about the AI adoption in your localization team, the extent of AI translation and the scope of it. She would like to know how AI is impacting the team, if that's okay to share, of course.
Um, yeah, so I will share what I can share. And I can assure you that so far in Blazor localization, for all the player-facing in-game strings, we're not using any AI, because we just simply don't think AI is there yet, to meet our Blazor standard. So we're still using the human translators just to ensure that we provide the best quality for our players. And I wouldn't say our players are picky, but then they really pay attention to the details. Even we use the collision mark wrong, they will notice that and they will post that on the forum. And then we'll need to fix that if it's hard fixable. So we really need to be careful, but it doesn't mean we don't embrace the AI, because we know it's a trend and we want to stay ahead of the curve. So we've been exploring, uh, you know, so for example, I'm a product manager, and sometimes when I'm writing the conference page to document a new initiative, um, or I'm writing an email to the dev team about, their change, uh, what's their change, impacted our localization work. Or sometimes when we receive a new batch from the dev team, then we need to localize them. But then we noticed that the tokens in the string, they don't have a clear definition. If the token stands for a percentage or it stands for a number, the translation can be very different in some languages, like including Chinese. So if we don't have that context, then it can be really frustrating and we can make mistakes. But then if we go through the string one by one, use our human eye, it can be very time consuming as well. So I'm trying to use AI to screen how many strings does not have a clear def comment, and then and I'm trying to hook that with an internal link, which will tell you who is a creator for that string. And based on, yeah, I'm still exploring that. But now, so basically the idea is to leverage AI to help me, make a stronger case with the data, and Yeah, AI can really be helpful in all of the front. So I think that's what I can share. And actually, the dev team follows the same principle. If the content is player facing, then we cannot use AI. That's our current company policy. But if they're trying to get some inspiration, you can use the AI that's being approved by our IT team.
Wow.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, and we have one last question asked by Anna. Perhaps Anna, would you like to ask your question directly to Angela?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because you were talking about localization depth, right? And it's just so hard. I can only imagine it's so hard to manage all those strings, right? And we all know that if it's done by humans, errors might happen. So can you share your process for fixing language bugs? If, for example, players pointed out some inconsistency or issues, can your team fix it independently, or do you have to ask other teams to implement fixes? How does it work for you? Again, if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it really depends on if we have the feasibility to make the quick fix, right? So for example, for World of Warcraft, we can hot fix them. And if the bug is really critical, then we can, make a case for the dev team and ask them to hot fix this for us. But then for other games, for example, Overwatch 2, then we don't really have the technical feasibility to push a hot fix. We can only deploy a bug fix patch 2 weeks after a new patch is released. So that, if we found any bug, be it minor or major or critical, we'll have to fix them 2 weeks later. So unfortunately, that's the case for us. And also it depends on the nature of the bug. So for example, if it's an existing string in our localization database, then we can just quickly make the change and then, sync that with the game engine and then, push a new build. But then if it depends on the dev team to tweak something on their side. So you probably remember the console string example that I mentioned for Xbox and PS4, they use different terminologies. And if we happen to make a mistake, then, or perhaps the dev team forgot to create a string for PS5, and we'll ask them to create a string first, and then we localize them. And then, we sync with the game engine and deploy a new build. So basically, that's how do we fix the bug.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing it. It's I know it's often very complicated, and yeah, I can only assume you do a great job convincing them to apply those fixes, knowing everything you know about the costs of errors and potential PR risks when it comes to games.
Yeah, I think bug is actually a good way to reflect what we could do better. So often we will analyze the data of the live bug. So basically, how many do we have, and also what's the nature and the severity of those bugs, and then we look at the either our pipeline or our vendor service level or some other issues that were causing this. So it's a very reflective process for us, and I think the live bug is like another invaluable insight that we cannot ignore.
Yeah, and I think that's also a potential argument, right? To collaborate with your stakeholders and explain to them why you should use proper ways to create content, why you should localize with your target audience in mind, right? To avoid issues like that.
Yeah, another great example to I'm hesitant to use the word educate because I always feel like that word is a little bit condescending, but
Okay.
more like share the localization pain points with the dev team and
Yeah.
make a stronger case. Like probably I'll just tell them, well, this is the localization that, so this is something you will understand.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's a fantastic point. Fantastic point. Okay. I think that's all the questions we had.
Yes, that's all the questions.
Okay. Thanks again, Angela. This has been absolutely amazing, and thank you for sharing so generously your insights and your best practices. I think that's a very rare opportunity, and we're all very grateful.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for all the audience for spending the lovely evening with us.